Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and stared at the endless black space ahead. For 12 years, he had patrolled the same route around the Sol system. For 12 years, he had made sure no ship got too close to the sleeping giants. The human home system was off limits. Everyone in the galaxy knew this rule. Everyone followed it. "Captain, we're picking up strange readings again," said Lisa Kane from her station. She was his navigator and had been with him for 5 years. Her fingers moved across the control panel as she tried to make sense of the data. Jake walked over to her station. "Same as last week?" "Stronger," Lisa said. She looked worried. "Much stronger." Peter Walsh looked up from his science station. He was young for a coalition officer, only 26, but he knew his job well. "Sir, these energy patterns don't match anything in our databases. They're coming from deep inside human space." Jake felt a cold fear in his stomach. The humans had been quiet for 300 years. They had gone to sleep after their brief and terrifying time in galactic politics. The whole galaxy had agreed to leave them alone. It was safer that way. Could it be natural? Jake asked. Solar flares? Stellar storms? Peter shook his head. "No, sir. This is artificial. Something big is happening in there." Jake turned away and walked to the main viewing screen. Out there, past the invisible line that marked the quarantine zone, lay Earth and its colonies. Somewhere in that darkness, the humans were doing something. But what? He had read the old reports. Every coalition officer had. The humans had appeared in galactic space 350 years ago. They had been primitive then, using basic fusion drives and simple weapons. The other races had welcomed them as junior partners. That welcome had not lasted long. Within 50 years, humans had advanced beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Their technology grew at an impossible rate. They built ships that could destroy entire fleets. They created weapons that turned planets into glass. They developed defenses that made them nearly untouchable. The coalition races had tried to stop them. The Vorth Empire had sent their greatest fleet against a single human colony. The entire fleet had vanished. No wreckage, no survivors, no explanation. One day they were there, the next day they were gone. The Zephyrians had tried next. Their crystal ships were the most advanced in the galaxy. They had launched a surprise attack on 3 human worlds at once. All 3 worlds had survived. All the Zephyrian ships had been captured intact, their crews unharmed but their vessels completely disabled. The Nebular Collective had been the last to try. Their gas-form beings could pass through solid matter and were nearly impossible to kill. They had infiltrated human space, planning to sabotage human installations from within. The humans had detected them immediately and sent them home with a message. "We know where you live." After that, the galaxy had come to an understanding. Humanity was too dangerous to fight and too advanced to control, but they had made no move to conquer anyone. They seemed content to stay in their own space and develop their technology. Then one day they had simply stopped. All communication from human space had ended. Their ships had stopped appearing in neutral zones. Their colonies had gone dark. The galaxy had waited for an invasion that never came. Years passed, then decades. The humans remained silent. Scientists had theories. Maybe they had transcended physical existence. Maybe they had moved to another dimension. Maybe they had simply decided to sleep until the galaxy was ready for them. The coalition had been happy to let them sleep. Now, standing on his bridge, Jake wondered if that sleep was ending. "Sir," Lisa said, "I'm detecting movement in the outer system. 3 objects moving fast." "Human ships?" "Unknown. They're too small to be ships, too big to be probes." Peter's voice was tight with worry. "Captain, whatever those objects are, they're scanning us. Full spectrum analysis, deep penetration scans, they know everything about our ship now." Jake felt his hands shake. In all his years of patrol duty, nothing had ever come out of human space. Nothing had ever acknowledged his presence. The humans had been perfectly, absolutely silent. "Are they hostile?" he asked. "No weapons detected," Peter replied. "But sir, I'm not sure our sensors would detect human weapons anyway. They're 300 years more advanced than when they went quiet." The objects moved past his ship without slowing down. Jake watched them disappear into deep space, heading toward Coalition territory. His ship's computer couldn't identify them, couldn't understand their propulsion system, couldn't even guess at their purpose. "Lisa, send a message to Coalition Command," Jake said. "Tell them we have confirmation of human activity. Tell them something is happening in Sol System." "What should we do, Captain?" Peter asked. Jake looked at the empty space where the objects had been. 300 years ago, the galaxy had learned to fear humanity. Then they had learned to be grateful for their silence. Now, it seemed, they might have to learn to fear them again. "We keep watching," Jake said, "and we pray they're still sleeping." But deep in his heart, Jake Morrison knew the humans were awake. The question was, what did they want? Far away on the Coalition homeworld of Kepler Prime, Admiral Helen Brooks was receiving the same energy readings. She sat in her office, surrounded by classified files about humanity's last known activities. The files told a story of impossible advancement and terrifying capability. Helen had been a young officer during humanity's active period. She remembered the fear in her commanders' voices when they spoke about human technology. She remembered the relief when the humans went quiet. Now, looking at the energy readings from Sol System, she felt that old fear returning. "Send word to the Council," she told her aide. "Tell them we may have a problem. Tell them the humans are stirring." The aide, a young Vorth officer named Krax, looked confused. "Ma'am, the humans have been inactive for centuries. Surely they pose no threat now." Helen looked at him with sad eyes. "Officer Krax, you don't understand. The humans were never inactive. They were preparing." As night fell on Kepler Prime, Helen Brooks stared out her window at the stars and wondered if the galaxy would survive what was coming. The universe had one rule about humans: don't wake them up. Someone, somewhere, had just broken that rule. Dr. Amanda Price brushed dust off the ancient human artifact and held it up to the light. The metal was unlike anything she had seen before. It felt warm to the touch and seemed to pulse with its own energy. She had been studying human remains for 10 years, but this piece was different. "Roy, come look at this," she called to her research partner. Commander Roy Phillips walked over from his workstation. He was a military officer assigned to protect the research team, but he had become genuinely interested in their work. "What did you find?" "This inscription," Amanda said, pointing to symbols carved into the metal. "It doesn't match any known human writing system, but look at the date." Roy squinted at the markings. "I can't read human script. It says this was made 50 years ago, Amanda said. 50 years ago, Roy. The humans supposedly went quiet 75 years ago. Roy felt his blood turn cold. That's impossible. All human activity stopped decades ago. Amanda sat down heavily in her chair. That's what I thought. But I've been finding more pieces like this. Tools, weapons, equipment, all dated after the humans supposedly went to sleep. She pulled out a datapad and showed him her findings. Look at this pattern. Every year I find artifacts that are newer than the last. It's like they never stopped building, never stopped advancing. Roy studied the data. As a military man, he understood what this meant. Amanda, if the humans have been active this whole time, if they've been developing technology for 75 years beyond what we thought possible, then everything we believe about them is wrong, Amanda finished. Meanwhile, in the outer reaches of Vorth space, General Krax paced the bridge of his flagship. He had been promoted since his days as Admiral Brooks' aide, and he had his own ideas about humanity. Sir, Coalition Command has ordered us to maintain standard patrol routes, his communications officer reported. Coalition Command is full of old fools, Krax snarled. They still live in fear of bedtime stories. The humans have been silent for almost a century. How dangerous can they be? His tactical officer, a younger Vorth named Zek, looked up from his station. Sir, the old records show they destroyed entire fleets. With technology that's a century out of date, Krax replied. How much could they have advanced while sleeping? Krax had built his career on bold action, while other officers followed. Careful protocols, he took risks, he won battles, he got results. Prepare a stealth probe, he ordered. We're going to take a look at what the humans are really doing. Sir, that violates the Sol Quarantine Treaty, Zek said nervously. The treaty assumes the humans are a threat, Crack said. I intend to prove they're not. The probe launched from his ship and began its journey toward Earth. It was the most advanced scouting device the Vorth had ever built. It could slip past any known detection system and gather information from light years away. As the probe approached the outer edge of Sol system, it began to scan for human activity. What it found confused its sensors. The readings showed massive industrial complexes throughout the system, orbital stations the size of moons, energy signatures that defied physics. The probe tried to get closer, to gather more detailed information. As it crossed an invisible line in space, ancient human monitoring systems came online. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in bunkers that had been built centuries ago, warning lights began to flash. Dr. Susan Grant looked up from her research as alarms filled the underground facility. Report, she called out. Alien probe attempting to penetrate outer perimeter, her aide replied. Vorth design, military grade. Susan felt a mixture of sadness and anger. For 75 years, humanity had maintained the illusion of sleep. They had hoped the galaxy would leave them alone. They had wanted peace. Activate defensive grid, she ordered. Eliminate the probe. Ma'am, should we send a warning first? No, Susan said firmly. They knew the rules. They broke them anyway. High, above Earth, weapons that had been hidden in asteroids and space debris came online. The Vorth probe had time to send one burst of data before it was completely destroyed. Not damaged, not disabled. Completely unmade, as if it had never existed. On his ship, General Krax watched his probe signal disappear. For a moment, he felt the same fear his ancestors had known. Then, his pride overrode his caution. They destroyed our probe, Zek reported, his voice shaking. Good, Krax said. That proves they're still active. It also proves they're hostile. Prepare the battle fleet. We're going to show the galaxy that humans can be defeated. Back on Earth, President Caroline Stone stood in the Situation Room as reports came in from around the globe. Humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. They had hoped it would never come, but they were ready. The Vorth probe transmitted our defensive positions before we destroyed it, reported General Marcus White. They have tactical information about our outer perimeter. Let them have it, Caroline said calmly. Those positions were designed to be discovered. Show them what we want them to see. Ma'am, are we really going to war? Asked Secretary of Key. Defense Linda Hayes. Caroline looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. These men and women had devoted their lives to keeping their species safe. They had built weapons that could crack planets and defenses that could turn stars into shields. They had done it all in secret, all while the galaxy believed humans were sleeping. We've been at war for 75 years, Caroline said. We just haven't been fighting yet. Dr. Grant entered the room, still wearing her laboratory coat. Madam President, our deep space sensors show Vorth fleet movements. They're gathering ships from 3 systems. How many? Caroline asked. 200 vessels, including their newest dreadnoughts. Caroline nodded. Susan, activate Project Prometheus. It's time to remind the galaxy why they were afraid of us. Are you sure, ma'am? Once we reveal our capabilities, there's no going back to hiding. They made that choice for us when they sent that probe, Caroline replied. Besides, it's been 75 years since we gave them a demonstration. They seem to have forgotten. Across human space, buried weapons systems began to power up. Orbital platforms that had been disguised as asteroids revealed their true nature. Ships that had been hidden in the outer dark began to move. On the research station, Amanda Price felt her hands shake as she held the latest artifact she had discovered. The inscription was clear. Made yesterday. Roy, she said quietly. I don't think the humans ever went to sleep. I think they've been watching us this whole time. Roy Phillips looked at the readings from Sol system that were coming through, on their communications array. Energy signatures beyond anything the Coalition had ever seen. movement patterns that suggested a fleet larger than anything in galactic history. "Amanda," he said, "I think you're right, and I think we just woke them up." In his command bunker, General Krax smiled as his fleet formed up for the attack on human space. He was about to become the Vorth who conquered humanity. His name would be remembered forever. He was right about that last part. The destruction of the Vorth probe sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For the first time in 75 years, humans had taken direct action against another species. Every government in coalition space held emergency meetings. Every military commander reviewed their defense plans. Captain Danny Roberts stood on the bridge of the UES Phoenix Rising as his ship prepared to leave Sol system. He was nervous, which was unusual for him. Danny had commanded ships for 15 years, but he had never taken one beyond Earth's protective barrier. "All systems ready, Captain," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Beth Morgan. "Quantum drive is online." "Communications array is active," added Ensign Kevin Clark from his station. "We're ready to broadcast on all coalition frequencies." Danny looked at the small data crystal in his hand. Inside it was a message from President Stone herself. A message that would change everything. "Take us out, Beth," he ordered. The Phoenix Rising moved through space unlike any ship the galaxy had ever seen. It didn't use conventional engines. Instead, it folded space around itself, stepping from one location to another instantly. Within minutes, it had traveled hundreds of light years. When the ship appeared on coalition sensors, panic spread through every monitoring station. Human ships were not supposed to exist outside Sol system. They were not supposed to move that fast. They were certainly not supposed to appear without warning in the middle of coalition space. "All frequencies open, Captain," Kevin reported. Danny activated the message crystal. President Stone's image appeared on screens across the galaxy. She looked tired but determined. Behind her stood the symbols of human government that had not been seen for decades. "To the leaders of the Galactic Coalition," she began. "For 75 years humanity has maintained peaceful isolation. We withdrew from galactic affairs to avoid conflict. We respected the boundaries you set for us. We asked only to be left alone." Her expression hardened. "Yesterday, the Vorth Empire violated our space with a military probe. This was an act of war under any interpretation of galactic law. However, we are prepared to be merciful." The message continued with terms that shocked every government that heard it. Humanity demanded the immediate withdrawal of all coalition forces from a buffer zone around human space. They wanted formal recognition of human territorial claims. Most importantly, they wanted assurances that no further violations would occur. "You have 24 standard hours to comply," Stone concluded. "If you refuse, you will face the consequences." Of waking a sleeping giant, the transmission ended. The Phoenix Rising waited in space, silent and still. On Kepler Prime, Admiral Brooks called an emergency session of the Coalition Defense Council. Representatives from every major species gathered in the Great Chamber, their voices raised in argument and fear. "This is clearly a bluff," declared Vorth Admiral Thek. "Humanity has been inactive for decades. They cannot possibly have the capability to threaten us." "Then explain their ship's propulsion system," countered Zephyrian Counselor. "Rin 7. Our sensors cannot even detect how it moves." Brooks stood and raised her hand for silence. "We need to consider our response carefully. The humans have never made empty threats." "That was 75 years ago," Admiral Thek insisted. "Technology advances, but not at the rate they would. Need to remain a threat." Deep in Vorth space, General Krax received the human ultimatum and laughed. He had been planning his attack on human territory for weeks. A single human ship appearing in coalition space only proved his point. If they were truly powerful, they would have sent a fleet, not one vessel. "Prepare the strike force," he ordered. "We attack New Geneva colony in 6 hours." "Sir, shouldn't we wait for orders from Coalition Command?" asked his aide. "Coalition Command is paralyzed by fear," Krax replied. "Someone needs to show the galaxy that humans can be beaten." New Geneva was humanity's closest colony to coalition space. It had been established during humanity's active period and had gone dark along with all other human settlements. Krax's Intelligence reports suggested it was lightly defended, if defended at all. His strike force consisted of 50 ships, including his personal dreadnought, Vorth Glory. It was enough firepower to destroy a dozen colony worlds. Against sleeping humans, it should be overwhelming. The attack began at dawn, New Geneva time. Krax's ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system and immediately began their assault. The colony's shields held for exactly 3 minutes before they were overwhelmed. Krax watched with satisfaction as his ships pounded the human settlements. Buildings collapsed. Defensive installations exploded. Within an hour, New Geneva was burning. "Any response from other human colonies?" he asked. "Nothing, sir," his communications officer replied. "No distress calls, no request for assistance. They're not even trying to fight back." Krax smiled. This was even easier than he had hoped. On Earth, Dr. Grant watched the destruction of New Geneva on her monitors. Each explosion, each collapsed building, each human life lost was carefully recorded. The political leadership had known this might happen. They had prepared for it. "Ma'am," her aide said quietly, "the president is asking for authorization." Susan looked at the images from New Geneva one more time. Thousands of humans were dead. A colony that had taken decades to build was being destroyed in hours. "Tell the president she has authorization for Project Prometheus," Susan said. "Full activation." President Stone received the message in her command center. Around her, the most advanced military technology in the galaxy hummed to life. Weapon systems that had been built in secret over 7 decades powered up. Targeting, computers locked onto every Vorth ship in New Geneva system. "Fire," she said simply. In space around New Geneva, reality itself seemed to bend. Krax's ships suddenly found themselves surrounded by energy fields that hadn't been there moments before. Their weapons stopped firing. Their engines stopped working. Their shields collapsed. "What's happening?" Krax demanded. "Unknown, sir," his tactical officer replied, panic in his voice. "All our systems are being affected. It's like space itself is fighting us." Then the human weapons fired. They were not like any weapons the galaxy knew. They did not send projectiles or energy beams. Instead, they reached out and touched the Vorth ships, converting their matter directly into energy. The process was clean, efficient, and absolutely final. One by one, Krax's ships simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged. They became light and heat and memory. 50 ships, thousands of Vorth soldiers, the pride of their fleet, gone in less than a minute. Krax's flagship was the last to die. As the conversion field reached his bridge, he had just enough time to understand what was happening. Humanity had not been sleeping. They had been preparing. For 75 years, they had been building weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics. The Vorth Glory became a brief, bright star, and then nothing at all. Back on Earth, President Stone addressed her military commanders. "Send the recordings to every government and coalition space. Let them see what happened to New Geneva. Let them see what happened to the Vorth fleet." "Ma'am, this will cause panic throughout the galaxy," warned General White. "Good," Stone replied. "Fear will keep them from making Krax's mistake. We gave them a warning. We gave them time to comply. They chose to test us instead." She looked around the room at humanity's leaders. "Gentlemen, ladies, the age of hiding is over. The galaxy will now remember why they were afraid of us, and this time we won't go back to sleep." Captain Roberts, still waiting in coalition space aboard the Phoenix Rising, received new orders. He was to remain in position for another 24 hours. If the coalition did not meet humanity's demands, he would deliver a second message, one that would not be nearly so polite. The universe had one rule about humans: don't wake them up. General Krax had broken that rule, and his entire fleet had paid the price. Now the galaxy had to decide. Would they learn from his mistake, or would they repeat it? The countdown to humanity's deadline continued. News of the Vorth fleet's complete destruction spread across the galaxy in hours. Every news service, every military intelligence network, every government communication system carried the same impossible story. 50 warships had simply vanished. converted to pure energy by human weapons that defied all known science. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his ready room, staring at the tactical reports. His hands shook as he read the analysis. The Vorth ships had not been destroyed by conventional means. They had been unmade at the molecular level, their matter transformed into energy so cleanly that no debris remained. "Sir," Lisa Kane said, through the intercom, "we're receiving new orders from Coalition Command." Jake walked back to his bridge. "What do they say?" "We're to maintain patrol around Sol system, but at extended range," Lisa replied. "No ship is to approach within 10 light years of human space." Peter Walsh looked up from his science station, his face pale. "Captain, our sensors are detecting massive movement inside human territory. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They're not using any propulsion system we can identify." "How are they moving?" Jake asked. "They just appear in new locations," Peter said. "No acceleration, no energy trail. One moment they're in one place, the next they're somewhere else entirely." Jake felt the fear that every Coalition officer was experiencing. The humans were not just awake, they were mobile, and they had technology that made the galaxy's most advanced ships look like primitive rockets. On the research station, Amanda Price and Roy Phillips watched the same readings with growing dread. Amanda held up another artifact. She had discovered this one clearly dated from the previous week. "Roy, look at this," she said. "It's a weapon design. The inscription says it can edit matter at the quantum level. That has to be what destroyed the Vorth fleet." Roy studied the artifact. "Amanda, if the humans have been developing technology like this for 75 years, while we thought they were sleeping, then they're not just more advanced than us," Amanda finished. "They're so far beyond us that we can't even understand their capabilities." She pulled up the data from her years of research. "Look at the pattern. Every year their artifacts show greater advancement. They haven't just been awake, Roy. They've been accelerating." Meanwhile, in Coalition space, 3 massive fleets were gathering. The Zephyrians had assembled their crystal ships, vessels grown from living minerals that could repair themselves and adapt to any threat. The Nebular Collective had brought their gas-form warships, beings that could phase through solid matter and strike from within. The remaining Vorth forces had joined them, seeking revenge for their lost comrades. Admiral Zeth 9 of the Zephyrians commanded the combined fleet from his flagship, the Crystal Storm. He was one of the oldest military commanders in the galaxy, having fought in wars across 3 centuries. He had never lost a battle. "The humans have shown they can destroy ships," he said to his assembled commanders. "But they have only demonstrated this ability in their own territory, using fixed installations. In open space, with mobile fleets, the situation will be different." Vorth. Admiral Thek, Krax's replacement, slammed his fist on the conference table. "They murdered 50 ships and thousands of our people. This cannot stand." "I agree," said Nebular Commander Flo 7, his gaseous form shimmering with anger. "The humans must be taught that they cannot threaten the galaxy with impunity." Admiral Zeth 9 studied the tactical displays. "We have 600 ships, the largest combined fleet in Coalition history. If we move quickly, we can reach human space before they can fully mobilize their defenses." What none of them knew was that humanity had been listening to their communications from the moment they began planning. Dr. Grant sat in her command center, watching the Coalition fleet movements on her displays. "They're really going to try it," she said to President Stone, who had joined her in the underground facility. "I hoped fear would stop them," Stone replied. "But some species only learn through experience." "What about Captain Morrison and the other Coalition officers who are just following orders?" Grant asked. "We'll give them a chance to withdraw," Stone said. "Anyone who chooses to leave will be allowed to go safely. But anyone who participates in an attack on human space will face the consequences." On his patrol ship, Captain Morrison received an unexpected transmission. It came directly from human space, bypassing all Coalition communication networks. The message was simple. "Captain Morrison, you have served honorably in maintaining the peace. When the shooting starts, take your ship and leave. You will not be harmed if you do not participate in the attack." Morrison looked around his bridge. Lisa and Peter were staring at him, waiting for his decision. He thought about his orders from Coalition Command, his duty to his species, his oath as an officer. Then he thought about what had happened to the Vorth fleet. Lisa, set course for Coalition territory, maximum speed. "Sir, that will take us out of our patrol zone," she said. "No," Morrison replied. "I've seen enough human demonstrations to last a lifetime. When this fight starts, I want to be far away from it." The Coalition fleet reached the edge of human space 12 hours ahead of schedule. Admiral Zeth 9 had hoped to catch the humans, unprepared, but as his ships dropped out of hyperspace, he found the human fleet waiting for them. There were only 12 human ships. 12? Admiral Thek snarled. "They send 12 ships against 600? "Perhaps it's a surrender delegation," suggested Commander Flo 7. Admiral Zeth 9 was not so confident. "No, these humans don't surrender. They're here to fight." The Yao, lead human vessel, transmitted a message. Captain Roberts appeared on the Coalition command screens, his expression calm and professional. "Coalition forces, you are in violation of human space. You have been warned repeatedly about the consequences of aggression against humanity. This is your final opportunity to withdraw. Any ship that does not retreat immediately will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." Admiral Thek laughed. 12 ships against 600 and they're threatening us. Fire on them immediately." "Wait," Admiral Zeth 9 said. But it was too late. The Coalition fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, missile barrages, plasma cannons, gravity weapons. Enough firepower to destroy a solar system struck. The 12 human ships. The human ships absorbed it all. The energy weapons were captured and stored. The missiles were converted into raw materials. The plasma was redirected back at the attackers. The gravity weapons were turned inside out, creating fields that twisted space itself. Then the humans began to fire back. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The human ships moved through space like living things, bending reality around them. They did not destroy the Coalition vessels quickly. Instead, they disabled them one by one, systematically and methodically. Zephyrian crystal ships found their living minerals turned against them, their own hulls becoming prisons. Nebular gas-form beings were compressed into solid matter, unable to phase or escape. Vorth warships simply stopped working, their crews unharmed but their weapons and engines completely dead. Admiral Zeth 9 watched in horror as his 600-ship fleet was neutralized by 12 human vessels. "How is this possible?" he demanded. His science officer, a young Zephyrian named Bright 3, looked up from his instruments with terror in his crystalline eyes. "Sir, the humans aren't using weapons as we understand them. They're manipulating fundamental forces. They're rewriting the laws of physics." "That's impossible," Zeth 9 said. "With respect, sir," Bright 3 replied. "We've been saying that about humans for 300 years, and we've been wrong every time." Captain Roberts transmitted another message. "Coalition fleet, you are now disarmed. Your ships will be towed to the nearest Coalition starbase and released. Your crews will not be harmed. Consider this a lesson in why the galaxy chose to leave humanity alone." On Earth, President Stone watched the engagement from her command center. "Any casualties on our side?" she asked. "None, ma'am," Dr. Grant replied. "Our ships report minimal energy expenditure. The Coalition fleet never posed a real threat." Stone nodded. "What about their morale?" "Completely broken," Grant said. "Intelligence reports indicate that half the Coalition governments are already preparing surrender offers." "Good. Send a message to Admiral Brooks. Tell her we're ready to discuss terms. But make it clear, the galaxy tried to wake us up. Now, they have to live with the consequences." The age of human dominance had begun. The universe's one rule about not waking the humans was broken forever. Now humanity would write the new rules, and the galaxy would learn to live by them. The final battle took place above Kepler Prime, the Coalition capital world. What remained of the galaxy's military forces had gathered for one last desperate stand. Admiral Helen Brooks commanded the defense from her flagship, knowing that this would likely be her final battle. She had tried to negotiate. She had sent message after message to the human leadership, offering terms, seeking compromise. The human response had been simple: unconditional surrender of all coalition military forces or total war. The galaxy had chosen war. "Admiral, the human fleet is approaching," reported her tactical officer. 60 ships this time. Brooks looked at her display. Against 60 human vessels, the coalition had assembled over 1,000 ships from every world in the galaxy. It was everything they had left, the final reserves of a dozen species. "They're not even trying to hide their approach," her communications officer noted. "No stealth, no tactical formation. They're coming straight at us." Dr. Susan Grant stood on the bridge of the UES Reckoning, humanity's most advanced warship. She had left her laboratory to personally oversee this final engagement. Around her, the ship's crew worked with calm efficiency. "Coalition fleet is holding position around Kepler Prime," reported Captain Lisa Stone, the president's daughter. "They're not advancing to meet us. They're afraid," Grant said simply. "After what happened to their last 3 fleets, they know they can't win, but they're too proud to surrender." "What are your orders, Doctor?" Captain Stone asked. Grant looked at the tactical display showing the coalition forces. 1,000 ships, millions of beings, all committed to a fight they could not possibly win. She felt sad for them. "Begin the demonstration," she ordered. The human fleet spread out across space in a formation that seemed random, but was actually precise beyond imagination. Each ship positioned itself at a specific point that would maximize the psychological impact of what was about to happen. Admiral Brooks watched the humans take their positions and felt a chill run through her. "What are they doing?" Her science officer, a nebular being named Mist 9, studied the readings. "Admiral, they're creating some kind of field around our entire fleet. I can't determine its purpose." "Weapons charged?" Brooks asked. "All ships report ready," her tactical officer replied. "But Admiral, our previous engagements suggest that our weapons have no effect on human vessels." Brooks knew he was right. 3 major battles had proven that human technology was beyond anything the galaxy possessed. But she had her orders and she had her pride. "All ships open fire," she commanded. The coalition fleet unleashed everything it had. Every weapon, every technology, every piece of military hardware that a dozen species had developed over millennia. The space around the human ships lit up with energy discharges that could be seen from the planet below. When the light faded, the human ships remained untouched. Dr. Grant activated the ship's communication system. Her image appeared on every coalition vessel simultaneously, transmitted through systems the aliens could not block or intercept. "Admiral Brooks," she said, "I know you from the old records. You were always a reasonable officer. You understood humanity better than most, so I want you to understand what is about to happen." Grant gestured to her tactical display. "Your fleet has just fired every weapon it possesses at us. You have done no damage. In response, we are going to demonstrate why the galaxy once feared us and why it will fear us again." "You are surrounded by a quantum manipulation field," Grant continued. "With a thought, we can convert every ship in your fleet to energy. With another thought, we can turn your weapons into flowers. With a third thought, we can simply make you stop existing." On the coalition flagship, Admiral Brooks felt her hands shake. "What do you want from us?" "The same thing we wanted 75 years ago," Grant replied. "To be left alone. But since that is no longer possible, we want acknowledgement of human supremacy. We want the galaxy to understand that we are no longer hiding." "And if we refuse?" Brooks asked. Grant's expression remained calm. "Admiral, look at your sensors. Tell me what you see." Brooks turned to her science officer. Miss Nine's gaseous form was trembling with fear. "Admiral, I'm detecting quantum signatures from every major world in coalition space, every homeworld, every colony, every military installation. They're all targeted." "How is that possible?" Brooks demanded. "Our worlds are thousands of light years away." Grant smiled sadly. "Distance is irrelevant when you can manipulate space itself. Admiral, we have been preparing for this day for 75 years. We have mapped every world, every ship, every installation in coalition space. We know where your leaders sleep. We know where your children go to school. We know everything. The truth of human capability was finally revealed. For 3 generations, while the galaxy believed humanity was sleeping, they had been working, not just advancing their technology but preparing for total war. Every star system in the galaxy has been seeded with quantum devices, Grant explained. We can destabilize any sun we choose. We can turn planets into energy. We can remake entire worlds according to our will. The question is not whether we can defeat you. The question is whether you will force us to destroy everything you have built. Admiral Thek, commanding the remaining Vorth forces, could not contain his rage. This is madness. You cannot threaten entire worlds. We are not threatening, Grant replied. We are explaining reality. Observe. On the tactical display, one of the Vorth ships began to change. Its hull started growing plants. Vines covered its weapons. Flowers bloomed from its engines. Within minutes, the warship had become a flying garden. The crew is unharmed, Grant said. They are breathing better air than they have in years, but their ship will never fire another weapon. She looked directly at Admiral Thek. Admiral, your ship can join the garden or you can accept the new order. Choose quickly. Thek chose defiance. All Vorth ships, ramming speed. If we cannot defeat them with weapons, we will destroy them with our hulls. The remaining Vorth vessels charged toward the human fleet. They made it exactly halfway before they too began to transform. Weapons became flowers. Armor became soil. Engines became trees. The proud Vorth battle fleet became a floating forest in space. The crews are safe and healthy, Grant announced. They will be returned to Vorth space in their garden ships. Perhaps they will appreciate the beauty of what we have given them. Admiral Brooks realized that further resistance was pointless. All coalition ships, stand down. Ceasefire. A wise decision, Grant said. Admiral, please join me aboard my ship. We have terms to discuss. Brooks transported to the human flagship, leaving her crew with orders not to interfere. As she materialized, on the Reckoning's bridge, she was struck by how normal everything looked. The humans appeared calm, professional, almost routine in their absolute dominance of the battlefield. Dr. Grant, Brooks said formally, I am prepared to discuss terms of surrender. There will be no surrender, Grant replied. There will be acknowledgement. The galaxy will recognize human authority in all matters of interstellar relations. Your species will continue to govern yourselves, but you will do so within the framework we establish. And if we refuse, Brooks asked, though she already knew the answer. Then we will govern you directly, Grant said simply. Admiral, we do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to prevent anyone from threatening humanity ever again. Work with us and your people will prosper. Fight us and they will be removed from the equation. Brooks looked around the bridge at the calm, professional humans who had just demonstrated the power to reshape matter itself. What assurances do we have that you will not abuse this power? The same assurance the galaxy had for the past 75 years, Grant replied. We could have conquered you at any time. We chose not to. We will continue to choose not to, as long as you do not threaten us. Captain Morrison, who had wisely retreated from the battle zone, received a message on his personal communicator. It was from Dr. Grant herself. Captain Morrison, your service in maintaining the peace has been noted. Humanity offers you command of the first integrated human-alien crew. Your new ship will represent the future. Cooperation under human leadership, with respect for all species that choose to join us. Morrison looked at his crew. Lisa Kane and Peter Walsh were watching him, waiting for his decision. They had all seen what happened to those who opposed humanity. They had also seen that humans kept their word about protecting those who cooperated. Send our acceptance, Morrison told his communications officer. It seems the galaxy has new rules now. President Caroline Stone addressed the galaxy from the coalition capital, which was now under human protection. Her message was broadcast to every world, every ship, every settlement in known space. The age of hiding is over, she announced. Humanity has returned to galactic affairs not as participants but as leaders. We did not seek this role, but it has been forced upon us by those who could not leave us in peace. The universe had one rule about humans: do not wake us. You broke that rule. Now you must live with the consequences. But these consequences need not be harsh. Work with us, and your worlds will know peace and prosperity beyond anything you have imagined. Oppose us, and you will learn why the galaxy once trembled at the mention of our name. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings realized that their universe had changed forever. Humanity was awake, and the